Part 46. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 451. In the courtyard of Belmere, Orgrim and Durag were sitting in the courtyard, drinking tea and chatting. There was no smell of gunpowder like the last time they met in Rogtown. From time to time, both parties would burst into hearty laughter. Belmire was in the room, looking at the two big guys with a complicated expression. The leader of the Revolutionary Army, Durag, is also a wanted criminal by the world government. Recently, he has been called the most vicious criminal in the world. How harmonious is it to be paired with the most evil pirate in the world? Should I say that neither of them is a good thing? Sure enough, they can make a couple. But for some reason, neither Orgrim nor Dalag seem to be as evil as they imagined. During this time, Belmar also figured out some things. That's the world. You can't just listen to what others say and believe in whatever. In the end, you have to get in touch with it and understand it yourself. In the past, I always believed that the Navy was just, until that war, until I returned to Kokoyasi village. The image of the Navy plummeted in Belamire's heart. On the contrary, now that Koko West village is shrouded in the pirate flag, it has become better. Who can explain the truth behind this? Why is this world so unreasonable? After taking a sip of tea, Durag glanced at Orgrim, and then asked, so, when you were in Rogtown, you rejected me so seriously, and I invited you many times later, and you rejected me. Why did you suddenly change your mind this time and want to meet me? Gee ha 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 ha, do you still need to ask? It's not like the world government didn't let me have my leisure time. They just created the King's Shishibukai and put Shanks in it. They want to cause trouble for me. So I have to cause some trouble for them too. Am I right? Orgrim raised his eyebrows and said. Durag raised the corner of his mouth and said, that makes sense. When he was young and had just left the Navy, Durag felt that Orgrim should be a person who could be saved. The reason why he went to sea to become a pirate was because Durag was in the Navy and knew the inside story. He was forced to. This is also the reason why he thinks Orgrim can still be saved. So he met Orgrim in Rogtown and wanted to recruit him. But in just one day, he had no feelings for Orgrim. The impression has changed drastically. Orgrim's performance in Rogtown was simply too evil. Crazy, powerful, full of destruction, and a representative of chaos. Since then, Durag has given up. Now, he knows that Orgrim is definitely not the same person as him. Maybe the two of them can still sit together now and talk about cooperation and other things. But when he really succeeds, he will not be with him again. If Orgrim is involved in any way, he must be eliminated for the sake of this world. Presumably, Orgrim has already understood that he and he are not the same people, so he used that attitude in Rogtown to him, right? Is Tiger okay? Orgrim suddenly asked. Durag nodded, not surprised, and said it's okay. Has he joined your revolutionary army? Orgrim asked. Durag smiled, shook his head and said, that's not really the case. Maybe he still wants to investigate, but, in short, we have a good relationship now and we get along very well. Even if he doesn't join in the future, we will still cooperate. That's it, Orgrim nodded and didn't ask any more questions. After a pause, Orgrim said, let's get down to business, Dalag. I'm here this time. I can make the decision. I promise to increase the arms share of the Revolutionary Army by 20%. Dalag looked at him with a look. Liang said, this can't be better. Of course, if it can be higher, I will be more satisfied. Gee ha 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 ha, don't think too beautifully. Orgrim laughed loudly and said. So, what do you need from me? It can't be Bailey, right? You don't seem to be lacking this, Durag asked with a smile. The first point is that the members of your revolutionary army can cause trouble wherever they like, but they are not allowed to do so in the Evernight Sea. Orgrim said without hesitation. Durag was silent for a moment and then said, "Okay, anyway, I don't intend to be your enemy now, let alone provoke you to join forces with the world government." Orgrim grinned, put on an evil smile, and said, "Second point, in terms of intelligence about pirates, your revolutionary army wants us to share some information." Unique news. Durag's expression changed slightly, and then he said, "You should know that our main focus is not on the pirates. But you must have, right? I heard that you also have a lot of manpower in the waters of Totland." Orgrim raised his eyebrows and said with a smile. Durag looked a little strange, and then said, "There is something that the Big Mom pirates, who are known as the number one in the pirate industry, have not found out. You Warhammer pirates Tuan actually knew. That's all in the past. Now, the Warhammer pirates are the number one in intelligence in the pirate industry. But Charlotte Lingling, that damn old woman, is extremely defensive against me. Their intelligence capabilities are also very strong, so regarding the Big Mom pirates I haven't received any internal information from the bandits for a long time. I've been wondering that Katakuri's brother Deifuku and Charlotte Lingling's third son were both killed by me and their heads were sent to her. Went home, but they didn't respond at all. What's the problem internally?" Orgrim spoke. Durag was silent for a moment. "Indeed, they still have some power in the Totland Sea, especially intelligence power. On the surface, Durag didn't seem to pay much attention to pirates, but in fact, he had always paid attention to them. Otherwise, he had no grudge against that guy Tikai. Why did Tikai immediately lead people to destroy Brother Baradai as soon as he caught the news about him? Totland, an evil pirate country, is the regime that Durag wants to overthrow and liberate the people there. Of course, so does Avalon. It's just that Durag is more concerned about the world government now and has no time to care about them, but of course the arrangements that should be made must be made in advance. Otherwise, when you need to use it, you won't be able to use it. How uncomfortable would that be? Therefore, the power of the Revolutionary Army has actually been penetrating the pirate forces. It's not that I can't tell you. It seems that Charlotte Lingling and Katakuri had a fierce conflict because of Deifuku, but in the end Katakuri surrendered. Charlotte Lingling originally seemed to want to take away Katakuri, is known as General Katakuri, but after all, Katakuri has been regarded as a benchmark for the Big Mom pirates for many years. If he dismantles it himself, it may cause the already turbulent Big Mom pirates to get into more trouble. Among the disadvantages, Charlotte Lingling just imprisoned Katakuri on Cake Island. Whether it will be used again in the future is unclear, but at least in a short period of time, in practical terms, the Big Mom pirates inside, it can be treated as if there is no such person as Katakuri, Durag said softly. Orgrim looked a little surprised when he heard this, but he quickly digested the news. He had long known that the Big Mom pirates seemed to use family affection and blood as a bond, they are connected together. But in fact, the entire pirate group, including the Charlotte family, are all under the high-pressure rule of Charlotte Lingling. Even her children, but the dissatisfied people among them, there is still a lot. It's just that there is nowhere to vent it. For example, Lola, who was originally supposed to marry Loki, the prince of the giant clan, couldn't stand this kind of rule and ran away. Another example is that Lola, who was originally married to Aladdin, was used to marry Jinbi. The half-Murloc they married, Charlotte Plaline, betrayed Charlotte Lingling directly after the incident with the Sun Pirates. The more typical example is Charlotte Bryn, the three-eyed one. A girl from the family. In short, the Charlotte family seems to be powerful, but in fact, there are many internal contradictions. Based on Orgrim's analysis, Katakuri should think that maintaining the Charlotte family in front of Lingling, he can protect his brothers and sisters more effectively. So he is willing to safeguard the interests of Charlotte Lingling and the interests of the Big Mom pirates. Not that he has deep feelings for Charlotte Lingling, well, that's nonsense. The result was good. Charlotte Lingling failed and was defeated by Orgrim and Kaido. Then, her compatriot brother Dafa was directly killed by Orgrim. And she also specially he sent his head to the Big Mom pirates to provoke the Charlotte family. If Katakuri could endure it, he would really become a turtle grandson. It is estimated that he wanted revenge at all costs. But he was beaten by Charlotte Lingling stopped it, and as a result, the most famous and powerful general of the Charlotte family fell out with their mother. This was indeed very unfavorable news for their Big Mom pirates, so it was blocked, and normal. Interesting, Orgrim couldn't help but smile. At any other time, he might have made a move, such as poaching Charlotte Lingling to see if he could get Katakuri to join the Warhammer pirates. But now, that is probably impossible. If he causes trouble, Katakuri and Charlotte Lingling may quickly reconcile and become a family in love. After all, Dafa killed himself. On this matter, Katakuri and Charlotte Lingling definitely have the same position. But we should also pay a little attention to this matter. You may say it is big, but it is not big, but it is really not small. It may come in handy in the future. Just knowing this news, Orgrim didn't come to the East China Sea to meet Durag in vain. This is just a bonus. Intelligence matters are still very important. If you want to get this unique information from our Revolutionary Army, you have to pay some effort. Durag smiled and said. Gee ha 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 ha, it's easy to say, I can use the news about the world government to make deals with you. Orgrim said with a smile. However, the two of them were just trying it. After all, there was no trust relationship between the two parties. This matter is over for now. In the future, when both parties need it again, they can discuss it. These intelligence transactions. After that, Orgrim and Durag had some other communications. The two sides were constantly testing and contacting each other. In short, in other aspects, they also reached some small and medium-sized agreements. Intention to cooperate. For example, if a certain price is paid, Orgrim's Warhammer pirates can provide some cover for the whereabouts of members of the Revolutionary Army in the New World. The specific price will be determined based on the situation. It can be intelligence, or it can be Bailey who is exciting enough. And Dalag is willing to use the power of the Revolutionary Army to help Orgrim build the bank he is planning to build in the Dark World. Dalag's idea is also very interesting. Simple, now the Revolutionary Army has no capital in most banks. They don't dare to deposit money in them. After all, most banks are established by the world government. If it is not found, forget it. Once it is found, isn't it like the Revolutionary Army is sending all the money directly into the pockets of the world government? But now, with Orgrim taking the lead in setting up a bank specifically to serve shady forces like them, even though this guy is a pirate, but in the Dark World, he has much more credibility than the world government. Once this thing is done, it will be a boon to the Revolutionary Army's complicated fund circulation problem. Of course. Durag has both hands and feet. I support it. As for whether Orgrim will take advantage of it, at least in the short term, it shouldn't happen. That's enough. Meanwhile, in the New World, the Sphinx's infinite firepower explosion will let your whole family ascend to heaven is slowly sailing into a port. Then, this little lowly jumped off the boat very irritably, cursing and saying, Enel, that red-haired pirate group that is clamoring to challenge us is here, right? A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 452. In the tavern, Shanks and others were drinking. Returning to the New World after a long absence, I always feel that the air here is so sweet. The situation is chaotic, pirates are in charge, and there is no navy that likes to meddle in other people's business. Although great changes have taken place, the atmosphere here still remains the same. Of course Shanks was happy. After so many years, I have returned to the New World, and I can try to provoke that bastard Orgrim. While Shanks was drinking with many of his friends, a pirate boy hurried in. "Captain, the people from the Warhammer Pirates are here. It seems like the irritable Sphinx and the Thunder Fruit user an arrow," the little brother reported to Shanks. Shanks grinned with an evil smile and said, "Is it finally here? It's not in vain that I've spent so much time here." The agreement with the warring States Marshal was to secretly handle the Big Mom pirates. But on the surface, we still have to put on a posture that we are coming for you, Orgrim, in order to numb the eyes of the major forces. Shanks comes and does just that. But he is not a fool. He knows that although he has the support of the Navy now, in the New World, who has the final say and the Navy has no control. Therefore, it was impossible for him to come up and fight Orgrim until death. It is also impossible to go directly to Avalon or the Evernight Sea to cause trouble. He was ready to beat the drums and put on a show, and that was it. Therefore, I exchanged information with the Navy and learned that the Sphinx of the Warhammer pirates seemed to be in the nearby sea area, so Shanks was in the sea area, promising to kill the Warhammer pirates or something. Anyway, he said a lot of harsh words. His plan was to use the Sphinx's world-famous bad temper. If you hear these rumors, why don't you come over and cause trouble for him? The Sphinx seems to be the easier one to pinch among the cotters of the Warhammer pirates who are currently on the road. Even if I defeat her here, I won't kill her, let alone capture her. But it was enough to frustrate the reputation of the Warhammer pirates. And this also leaves room for both sides. It is estimated that the Warhammer pirates will not really want to kill them at all costs. Because the red-haired pirates are still a ship until now. If you insist on messing with us, then we can't afford to offend you, so why can't we hide from you? I'm a boat, hidden directly in Whitebeard's territory, what can you do to me? Threatening Whitebeard to have sex with someone? Do you think Whitebeard would be threatened? Are you ready to start a full-scale war with the Whitebeard pirates? Of course, this kind of thing will definitely anger Whitebeard, but if you have a lot of debt, you are not afraid of lice bites, and Shanks doesn't care about this. Therefore, after the news was released, Shanks did not hide anything and just stayed on the island, carefree, just waiting for the Sphinx and the others to come. At this moment, the door of the tavern was kicked open. Then, the Sphinx walked in with a Gatling gun in his hand. The rest of the people in the tavern were all startled. After seeing the figure of the Sphinx, they all prepared to run away without saying a word. Just kidding, the Warhammer pirates are the dominant group in the entire New World, and most of the sea area has been divided up by the 4 emperors. This kind of unclaimed land is actually a place where they vent their anger. Fight when you say it, without hesitation. This is not the first time I have encountered this kind of fight between pirates. If you are left as a casualty, you may not be able to save your life. It is better not to join in the fun and run away. The owner of the tavern did the same thing after seeing the Sphinx. He didn't even accept the money, just opened the back door and ran away. The New World is such a chaotic place. Ha ha ha, redhead. Sphinx recognized Shanks at a glance and laughed loudly. When Sphinx was still hanging out with Shiji, he had many conflicts with the Roger pirates. The Battle of Adwalshi was also present at the time, so she naturally recognized the trainee crew member on Roger's ship. "I heard that you, bastard, are provoking us, the Warhammer pirates." A ferocious smile appeared on the corner of the Sphinx's mouth. He pulled the bolt of the gun and pointed the gun at Shanks. Shanks grinned and said with a smile. "Said it seems that thanks to you, I don't have to pay for the drinks today, Sven." Shanks still wants to maintain the demeanor of a big boss. After all, Orgrim and I are the same generation. I am a former crew member of the Roger Pirates, so I can be considered a figure. Before the fight, let's say a few words about the scene. Is it reasonable? The result was good. He hadn't finished speaking yet. Sphinx had such a bad temper that he couldn't tolerate him at all. "Go to hell, Yakuza, Sphinx cursed angrily. He had no intention of listening to what Shanks had to say. He directly pulled the trigger in his hand. The next moment, the powerful Gatling gun began to spray fire. Damn it, Shanks cursed angrily in his heart, rolled like a lazy ass, and jumped directly from the seat to the ground beside him. And his friends also screamed and ran away from this place. Just in an instant, the wine table that was intact just now was completely destroyed by a shot of bullets from the Sphinx. The spitting bullets were like raindrops, getting heavier and heavier, and gradually turned into a downpour, directly falling. The entire tavern was submerged. Shanks rolled twice on the ground, pulled out the griffin hanging from his waist, slashed out with a sharp knife, broke the wall, and people suddenly entered. Got out. Ha 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 ha, with this little ability, you still want to challenge me, the Warhammer pirates? Mr. Hammer is too lazy to talk to you, but I, the Sphinx, will not tolerate you, Sphinx laughed. The moment Shanks escaped, she also threw aside the Gatling gun with the barrel burning hot, and casually pulled 2 bombs from her waist. And threw it out of the gap in the wall that Shanks split. Boom. A loud bang. The wall of the tavern was blown down. But at this moment, a slash broke through the smoke and flew towards the Sphinx. The Sphinx grinned, raised his hand with a domineering look, and turned his palm into a long knife, accurately blocking the attack. But soon, her expression changed, because the strength in her hands became stronger, her feet relaxed, and she was pushed out by the slash. Damn it, you guys in the Warhammer Pirates are indeed all lunatics. Even if you want to fight, you should let people finish their words, right? Is it polite? Shanks emerged from the smoke with a disgraceful face, and cursed angrily. However, as soon as he finished speaking, a thunder light burst out from the distance, with a dazzling brilliance, heading straight towards him. 1 or 2, are they all like this? Shanks cursed helplessly, and slashed out the famous sword griffin in his hand again, slashing through the air, splitting the lightning. But the Sphinx seemed to cooperate with Enelu, and they had a tacit understanding. Here, as soon as the lightning was cut away, she grabbed the door panel of the tavern and turned it into a rocket launcher. Without saying a word, she fired a shot at Shanks. But as soon as the rocket was launched, she heard a bang. There was a loud sound, and the rocket exploded in the air. The airflow carrying the smoke made the 2 horses behind the Sphinx sway in the wind. A light flashed in her eyes, she looked towards the side where the gunshot came from, and said, "Who are you? Looks like you're good with guns." "I'm nothing," Jesus Bulletin retorted, and then was stunned for a moment. "Damn it, I was tricked." "Ha ha ha, idiot," the Sphinx laughed and cursed. As soon as she finished speaking, her hand speed was so fast that she could hardly see it. In a flash, the revolver hanging on her waist was already in her hand and she aimed it. Without saying a word, Jesus fired a few shots directly at Jesus. Bulletin's reaction speed was also very fast. He had 2 short-style muskets in his hands and pointed at the Sphinx without even dodging. He also fired several shots. What's even more exaggerated is that he actually accurately hit all the bullets fired by the Sphinx. He just used this method to block the Sphinx's attack. The Sphinx's eyes lit up and he couldn't help but praise loudly, "What a great shot." "You're not bad either," Jesus Bulletin immediately retorted. At the same time, Shanks took another slash in his hand and went straight towards the Sphinx. However, the Sphinx seemed to be completely attracted by Jesus Bulletin, not at all. Regardless of the slash. But in the next moment, Eniro's figure turned into thunder and appeared in front of the slash. He raised his hand and chopped down with a battle axe, carrying a powerful electric current, directly killing Shanks. Was cut open by a slashing blow. "Enelu, leave this guy to you, this guy with a gun, I'm going to blow his head off," Sphinx said without hesitation. Enelu's face turned bitter. "Is it like this every time?" always giving me opponents beyond my capabilities. But he couldn't tolerate any objections. Sphinx moved his feet. While keeping distance from Jesus Buletin, he fired the revolver in his hand again. Jesus Buletin did not hesitate and ran with him, shooting at each other with the Sphinx in this alley. But everyone is a Top Gun master, and they couldn't be more sensitive to things like bullets. They are obviously sharpshooters, but they just can't hit the opponent. With both feet on the wall, the Sphinx used with this force, she jumped up suddenly, and the revolver in her hand circled beautifully on her slender fingers. The bullets that had been empty were filled directly. She became interested, and seemed not to intend to use it. He didn't have the ability to kill Jesus Buletin, but wanted to compete with him with a pistol. The moment the bullets were filled, he fired out with a bang. Jesus Buletin rolled on the ground and avoided the Sphinx's attack. The bullet happened to be hidden in the blind spot, blocking the sight of both parties. Ha ha ha, don't be afraid, I will use a gun to decide the outcome with you, I won't blow you up, Sphinx laughed and said. You have almost unlimited bullets with your ability. This is unfair, okay. But it's impossible for Jesus to say this. Sphinx is willing to only use a gun. You are already very graceful. We are all pirates. How do you expect others to use their abilities? Isn't that nonsense? On the other side, Shanks became angry at this time. He pressed down on Enel and slashed violently. Griffin slashed to the left and blasted to the right, cutting the alley of the tavern into a mess. Armed with the tomahawk and electric light, Enel could only deal with it in embarrassment. For a moment, he, a user with the Thunder Fruit ability, in Shanks' hands, there weren't many opportunities to fight back. It's easy to imagine how strong this guy's swordsmanship and strength are. Not enough. God avoids, the domineering power in Shanks' hands suddenly burst out, and he instantly entered a higher level. The moment the slash flew out, he already had the style of Roger back then. Anilu stepped forward with the tomahawk in his hand, and there was a trace of light in his eyes. A look of shock and anger. However, in the next second, the powerful slashing force directly knocked him away. After smashing several houses behind him, Shanks looked at the embarrassed Anilu and said, You are too young. As a new generation of masters, you are very good, but if you want to be my enemy, you are still far from it. Calling Beckman is about the same. However, Shanks had just finished speaking. Not far away, a voice with a strange tone reached his ears. Are you calling me? Beckman was wearing a black suit. He looked like a well-mannered civil servant. He also wore a pair of flat glasses on the bridge of his nose. He looked at Shanks with a smile on his face and asked. Shanks's expression changed. Looking back, it turned out to be Beckman. Ben Beckman, Shanks murmured softly. Different from the previous posture, although he was caught off guard by the unreasonable guy Sphinx and was a little embarrassed, Shanks didn't feel any pressure at all at that time. But now, the moment he saw Beckman, he felt that his plan had gone astray, right? Don't they all say that Beckman is the core of Avalon? Is it inseparable from him there? Orgrim can run around, but he can't. How come we met like this? Are you playing with me? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 453. Shanks felt very dizzy at this moment. How could this be different from what he said? You Beckman never leave Avalon once in 10,000 years, and this time you happen to run into me? Venomous calamity Ben Beckman. The bounty is 1.3 billion belly. In fact, according to the strength of the Warhammer Pirates, although Beckman is currently ranked second in the entire Warhammer Pirates, the bounty is second only to Khazgarot Orgrim. But the bounty gap between the two is still huge. And considering Beckman's identity, as the second in command of the Warhammer pirates, his bounty is actually not very high. In the Yonko pirates, currently, in terms of the status of the Emperor's deputy, Xiao Ma, the Phoenix, ranks first. Then there is Yin, the second in command of the Beast pirates. Over the years, he has come from behind, and the bounty has increased inexplicably. Then there is this guy Beckman. Finally, there is Katakuri, who has not even reached 1 billion belly, but is very powerful. However, Katakuri is now half cold and locked up by Charlotte Lingling. This is mainly because Beckman has not participated in various operations of the Warhammer pirates as a pure combatant over the years. Before joining the Golden Lion, Beckman and Orgrim often fought on the front line, and they almost died together on the Chambord Islands. But after joining the Golden Lion, Beckman rarely made any moves. When he arrived at Avalon, he almost became a back-office staff member. Therefore, in this case, Beckman still received a huge bounty of 1.3 billion Baileys. It can be imagined that the sea view of his strength is still very good. In fact, even though Beckman has been doing clerical work over the years, he has not fallen behind at all in terms of strength. He has worked very hard. If there is any shortcoming, perhaps it is that the richness of combat experience is somewhat lacking. But the problem is, he has a very good brain. Unlike Orgrim and others, they are straightforward and reckless when fighting. Beckman's fighting style is somewhat strange and changeable, capable of being both reckless and cunning. Shanks has analyzed the Warhammer pirates many times before. In the end, he fully recognized the fact that there was a huge gap between himself and the Warhammer pirates. The main reason is that he found that except for that bastard Orgrim, there are even 3 bosses in the Warhammer pirates who can compete with him. They are Ben Beckman, Joe Raquel Myhawk, and Douglas Barrett. If these 3 people are released, anyone can fight him for 300 rounds, which is very uncomfortable. The gap in hard power between the 2 sides was too big, and he needed stronger subordinates. Jesus Bulletin and Lackey Lou, how should I put it, although they are strong, they are not that strong yet. Maybe they can grow in the future, but now, they are completely impossible to compete with Beckman and the others. So, is today my unlucky day? Shanks shook his head helplessly, looked at Beckman and smiled. Although he found it a bit tricky, he didn't expect Beckman to appear here. But Shanks was not afraid of anything because of this, he just felt it was a bit troublesome. Beckman man smiled, but before he could speak, a fat figure directly smashed through the wall of the house not far in front of him, rolled several times on the street, and stopped next to Shanks. He stood up numbly. This man was none other than Lackey Lou. He glanced at the dusty chicken drumstick in his hand with some reluctance, gritted his teeth and threw it aside. At the same time, inside the broken wall, a figure walked out again. This figure was very tall, almost twice as big as Beckman and Shanks, and was very strong, with strong muscles that looked like steel. But this guy's on the shoulders, there is a very cute and beautiful beauty's head. This kind of incongruity really makes people feel uncomfortable. It feels like a top beauty has been blinded in vain. Yes, this figure is none other than Karanda Neiman, the sister of Orgrim and Beckman. Neiman pushed away the bricks in front of her, walked out of the broken wall, and waved her hands to disperse some of the dust in front of her. Second brother, it's just as you guessed. There is indeed a problem here. I think the red-haired pirates are ready to fight. Neiman walked out of the smoke with a smile and said to Beckman. How about it? Shanks looked at Lackey Lou next to him and asked. Lackey Lou moved his sore arms a little. He had punched Neiman just now, but he was no match for him at all and was directly hit by a punch. The fist flew away. Monster, that muscular girl. Lackey Lou said in a low voice. Shanks nodded, then looked at Beckman and said, So, we have fallen into a trap. Beckman grinned and said, That's not really true. I just followed your plan and made some adjustments. I didn't let the Sphinx do it on his own. Are you making some adjustments? You just come to Rengar or whatever, and I don't say anything. You arrived in person yourself, and you're still here? That's right, ever since the red-haired pirates entered the New World, Beckman has never underestimated them and has been keeping a close eye on them. This guy Shanks, contrary to his low profile in the first half of the Grand Line, entered the New World and announced in a high profile that he wanted to cause trouble with the Warhammer pirates. How could Beckman think this was normal? But he also believed that Shanks would not be stupid enough to directly fight the Warhammer pirates head-on. It's not that I look down on him, but the fact is that the three red-haired pirates combined may not be able to defeat them, the Warhammer pirates. Shanks obviously has no problem with his mind, how could he do such a stupid thing? Therefore, Beckman feels that Shanks is very likely to choose to use some strategies to attack the prestige of the Warhammer pirates from the side, to achieve his goal. And after thinking about it, it seems that this kind of thing is most likely to be implemented only in the case of Sphinx, who has a bad temper. Sure enough, it didn't take long for rumors about the red-haired pirates to spread in the sea area where the Sphinx was located. Beckman immediately felt that there must be a conspiracy. I originally thought about finding a chance to go out for a while, but I felt a little irritable staying in Avalon. Isn't that a good excuse now? Therefore, Beckman roughly arranged the work in hand, and directly took Neiman to kill the Sphinx in one go. They were operating in secret, so no news was lost before this. Sure enough, red-haired Shanks and his people were waiting for the Sphinx here. If Sphinx really came with Enelu alone, he would definitely be defeated here today. At that time, no matter what Shanks' next step is, whether he captures them, kills them, or whatever, this will cause a big blow to the reputation of the Warhammer pirates in the New World and affect the prestige of the Warhammer pirates. How could Beckman sit back and watch this happen? So he comes, he appears. Shanks sighed slightly, scratched his head, and said, "I'm telling you now, this is a misunderstanding. Do you think we can let it go?" Beckman grinned, nodded, and said, "Of course. No problem." But after he finished speaking, a faint purple smoke began to emit from his body. Soon, the smoke filled the 5 or 6 meters around him. Neiman curled her lips, not daring to get close to her second brother anymore. She distanced herself slightly from Beckman and focused on the fat Lucky Lou. "What you did is completely different from what you said," Shanks smiled helplessly. The moment he finished speaking, the griffin in his hand suddenly erupted with a cold light, and with a sharp edge, it turned directly into a slash and flew towards Beckman. Beckman stood still, stretched out his hand to push the frame of his glasses on the bridge of his nose, and said softly, "Anyway, you didn't plan to really say goodbye, did you?" Following his words, a strong feeling purple venom instantly burst out from his body, turning into a giant skeleton soldier that attached to Beckman's body like armor. If Orgrim were here, he would definitely exclaim, "It's you, Uchiha Madara, Susanoo." This giant skeleton soldier was transformed into venom, holding a machete, and was armed with a domineering look. Matoi blocked the way of Beckman with his sword, and easily caught Shanks' slash. However, the collision of the slashes still caused the venom turned into blades to splash out, falling on the ground, on the houses, and in the ruins. It was as strong as sulfuric acid, and seemed to be highly corrosive, corroding the ground and walls into pits and pits. Steam of poison, Beckman still looked calm and made no special movements. Just whispered softly. But Neiman, who was not far away, suddenly changed her expression and exclaimed, "Second brother, I'm still here." At the same time, Neiman didn't even look at Lucky Lou. She suddenly exerted force under her feet, and the powerful muscle force shot her away like a cannonball. At the same time, Enel, who was still lying in the ruins, preparing to watch a show and looking for an opportunity to take action, did not hesitate, transformed into lightning, and disappeared in the vicinity in an instant. Sphinx, who was shooting against Jesus, Cursed damn Beckman, could you not make such a big deal when you first come up? The moment the words fell, a look appeared on Sphinx's face. An exquisite gas mask. I don't know how she defines the weapon fruit. Why does she feel like she can change anything? Should he be said to be a top genius who can awaken in less than 2 years? The mind is just different. When Shanks saw the cotters of the Warhammer pirates, each of them looked like they had seen a ghost, and now they were also panicking. But before he could make any response, Beckman said with a smile, sorry, I got a little excited. I'll do it next time. As soon as he finished speaking, the ground where his feet stepped was like a spring, bursting out a large amount of venom. In the blink of an eye, the venom turned into a flood and spread in all directions. Go out. Then, the venom seemed to begin to evaporate, and it continued to mist. In just 3 or 5 breaths, the entire neighborhood was enveloped in a thick purple mist. This area is Beckman's vicious area. If you don't prepare in advance, in just a few seconds, this place will become a restricted area of life. Griffin Eagle, Shanks held his breath at this time, and slashed out with the sword in his hand, as if he wanted to cut through the thick poisonous mist. But it was useless. The powerful slash was submerged in the poisonous mist, although it was dispersed a lot, but in just a few blinks, the poisonous mist became thick again. Feeling that his eyes were stinging, Shanks didn't dare to hesitate anymore. His armed color and domineering aura were fully activated, adhering to the surface of his body like invisible armor. Generally, it separated him from the poisonous mist. As soon as he finished this action, the wave of venom that hit his face instantly turned into a ferocious dragon, roaring and biting him. Without thinking, Shanks turned around and run away. What the hell is that? Are poisonous fruits so ferocious? In this poisonous fog area, to fight Beckman, you must have one of 2 factors, otherwise you are a fool. I will fight him here. The first one is to be able to quickly kill Beckman and kill him directly, then there will be no problem. The second one is to be able to restrain his ubiquitous poison, either immune to toxins, or capable of restraint, or something else. But unfortunately, Shanks doesn't account for both factors, so he is still fighting here? Aren't you looking for abuse? Quickly distance yourself and find another chance. This guy is also a thief. He did not choose to run away or anything, but chased Neiman in one breath. Because Beckman's strength obviously cannot only cover this area. He may even it can cover the entire island. So there is no use for you to run elsewhere, just run to the cotters of the Warhammer pirates. If you, Beckman, are ruthless and want to poison us all together, then I, Shanks, will accept defeat. A Sledgehammer Breaks into Pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 454. Neiman was running in front, and Shanks was chasing behind. Then, behind the two of them, there was a large thick fog of poisonous gas, sweeping in. Damn it, you bastard, don't follow me. He's a man, so go confront my second brother. Neiman cursed as she ran. Am I mentally ill? If I don't say anything else, you can take out a gas mask and give it to me. I will turn around and confront him without saying anything, Shanks cursed angrily. This time, he didn't expect Beckman to appear here at all. Therefore, he was not prepared at all for Beckman's arrival and was caught off guard. As soon as they fought, he was directly beaten by Beckman. Man crushed. What the heck? This doesn't mean that there is a big gap in strength between Shanks and Beckman. To be honest, Shanks is very strong. Who is stronger than Beckman? Or two. But the problem is that the preparation is too insufficient. The power of the poisonous fruit lies in this. If you are not fully prepared, unless you are immune to the poison, you will not have to fight innately. At a disadvantage. The battle between masters is often just the slightest difference. The gap and disadvantage will be infinitely magnified. Shanks is in this state now. He doesn't even mention giving him a set of protective clothing. You just give it to me. A gas mask allows me to breathe freely inside, and I dare to turn around and confront your second brother. But now, I just can't do it. Real men should solve problems themselves. Neiman cursed, and then she suddenly stopped her feet, exerted force on her waist, and instantly twisted her figure. She punched Shanks with her backhand. Muscle explosion King Kong. Neiman roared angrily. Shanks seemed to have been guarding Neiman for a long time. The moment Neiman took action, the griffin in his hand also took on an armed and domineering aura, and he slashed forward with one knife. Two people's domineering energy collided in an instant. Neiman's domineering aspect is not a shortcoming. On the contrary, as a muscle fruit ability user, she is also a master of physical skills. Domineering is naturally the top priority. Therefore, Shanks's armed domineering energy failed to break through Neiman's armed domineering energy. The conflict between the two powerful domineering energy broke out instantly. The violent airflow dispersed a lot of the poisonous mist that caught up. But soon, more poisonous mist came overwhelmingly. Neiman and Shanks both had a tacit understanding. After a hard-fought blow, the two of them saw that in a short period of time, neither of them could do anything to the other. Without saying a word, they simultaneously withdrew their strength and turned around. Run. Neiman was also helpless at this time. She really didn't expect that the second brother, who had always been calm and collected, would actually raise his hand and open it up, looking excited. She was not prepared for this, otherwise I've already taken out a gas mask and put it on. Vicious Mountain Dew, Beckman's voice suddenly came from the poisonous mist. Then, a huge venomous skeleton soldier enveloped his figure, and quickly rushed out of the poisonous mist at a speed that was not suitable for this huge body. Take a closer look. At this time, the skeleton soldier's lower body and legs were dissolved in the wave of venom, as if he was surfing. Wherever Beckman went, the poisonous mist filled the air a little faster. A ruthless look flashed in Shanks's eyes, the movement of his feet suddenly stopped, and he flew out with a backhand slash. God avoids, Shanks shouted violently. Beckman grinned and still didn't make any movement, but the poison soldier covering him stretched out his hand into the wave of venom. The next second, again when the arm was pulled up, the venom was wrapped in armed haki, forming a huge shield, like it was fished out of the tide, blocking Beckman's face. Shanks' powerful slash, it hit the shield instantly. The huge poison soldier figure of Beckman froze, and the wave of venom behind him surged up. But it was of no use. His hasty blow did not fail to break through Beckman's venom defense. Why do I feel that this guy is more difficult to deal with than Orgrim? Shanks thought secretly in his heart. Thinking about it carefully, it seems that this is really the case. As for that guy Orgrim, you just need to be careful, don't fight him in the dark, and don't be stubborn when fighting. Head-to-head confrontation is actually not very difficult. The most he can do is use his strong hard power to knock you down head-on. As for Beckman, it's useless to fight back. But it didn't seem to be a problem to keep running. A flash of inspiration flashed in his mind, and Shanks instantly recalled the moment when he and Ni Man fought, the moment when the armed domineering confrontation dispersed the poisonous mist. With a flower shadow in his hand, the famous sword griffin put it into the scabbard very elegantly. Shanks, who was originally chasing Neiman, also stopped, stood there, and turned to face Beckman, who was rushing towards him. Give up? Do you really want to be a real man? Neiman thought with some surprise. She didn't think Shanks was such a stubborn guy, right? He couldn't stand it if she just said a few words to him. Beckman's eyes also condensed a little, not understanding. What is Shanks going to do? But at this time, the poisonous mist has already spread towards Shanks. Shanks grasped the handle of the knife with a very serious expression, and the poisonous mist spread over and was about to kill him. The moment he took it in, Shank's eyes suddenly changed, like a ferocious beast, flashing with a menacing light. "Open it for me," Shanks shouted violently. The moment he finished speaking, an extremely powerful aura suddenly exploded from his body. This aura was too overbearing. The moment it dispersed, everyone was shocked, and then, look at the poisonous mist that was about to cover him, and it was instantly washed away. Even the waves that the poisonous mist turned into were blocked by invisible forces. Overlord Color, Ni Man understood this power in her heart instantly. For a moment, even she almost lost her mind. Beckman also had a look of surprise in his eyes at this time. This is indeed the domineering look of a king. He is known as a million people. There is only one thing among them. But you are so domineering and domineering, aren't you too strong? After so many years of traveling across the sea, Beckman has seen many strong people, such as Whitebeard, Kaido, Charlotte. He had taken back Linglink's Overlord Color and the War Marshal's Overlord Color. But no one's Overlord Color could give him such an impact. Shanks's Overlord Color was the most powerful he had ever seen. Strong. Even Orgrim is probably not as strong as him in this regard. The burst of Overlord-colored domineering energy is like turning on an electric fan to Shanks, blowing away all the poisonous mist around him. He couldn't get any closer at all. A smile appeared on Shanks' lips and he said, "Is it my turn to fight back?" The moment he finished speaking, the griffin that had just been sheathed in his hand popped out directly. The speed was no worse than the Sphinx's gun-fighting technique. Cold light flashed, and he struck swiftly. It tore through the space, and with lightning speed, it directly hit the shield of Beckman's venomous giant soldier. Last time, the gods were able to block it. But this time, Shanks exploded with all his strength. The shield with a click, it was cut into two pieces. Then the entire giant soldier was hit. Beckman's eyes flashed, his feet slipped, and his figure was directly submerged into the wave of venom. Then, with a powerful slashing force, in an instant, he cut through the position where he was just now, cutting this poisonous giant in two. Shanks did not sheath the knife again, but raised the handle of the knife above his head, and threw the blade behind him, almost touching his waist. Then he changed from holding the knife with one hand to holding the knife with both hands. There was a fierce look in his eyes, coupled with his extremely powerful domineering look. He looked like he was going to create something new. "Kanzaki Kaishin," Shanks shouted loudly. The moment he finished speaking, the griffin he was holding in his hand slashed forward with a sharp blow. The powerful sword energy turned into a slashing strike, tearing open the ground in an instant. Like a hot knife cutting through butter, a huge, bottomless incision was made on the ground as far as the eye could see in front of him. The wave of venom was originally blocked by the incredibly powerful Overlord-colored domineering energy on his body. Affected and hindered. But Shanks' Overlord color can't always block this power after all. And now, the wave of venom blocked by the Overlord color's domineering energy seems to have a vent, and they all fall in the huge cut in the ground was like a waterfall. If viewed from the air, Shanks was currently located near the center of the island. And his sword slashed directly from his position to the coastline, almost destroying the island. Cut it open, even parting the sea. When the wave of venom gradually dissipated, Beckman's figure appeared in Shanks' sight again. He was still neat and tidy, and it seemed that his clothes were not messed up. The black suit made him look cold and handsome. Raising his hand to take off the plain glasses hanging on the bridge of his nose, Beckman folded them and hung them in the small suit pocket on his chest. Then, Beckman raised his hand to slightly loosen the tie in front of his neck, and unbuttoned the first 2 rows of buttons on the shirt underneath. He completed the set of moves very calmly and calmly. Shanks on the opposite side always felt that this guy was showing off. But it wasn't over yet. Beckman reached out and pushed his hair back, like Aizen's hand, and instantly changed his hairstyle into a slicked back hairstyle. Then there was a smile on his lips, and he twisted his neck slightly and said, "It seems that these small methods alone will not have much effect on you. So, do you want to say that you are ready to get serious?" Shanks said with some displeasure. "Why, you guys in the Warhammer Pirates are all so good at showing off. Where did you learn it?" "I also want to study further." "That's right, let's end the greeting here," Beckman said softly. The moment he finished speaking, his cuffs loosened slightly, and a short dagger appeared in his palm, and then he threw it directly at Shanks. The blade of the dagger seems to have a faint purple color, as if it has been soaked in venom, or in other words, the venom has been quenched when it was made. Shanks also moved quickly. He raised the griffin in his hand and knocked the dagger away with great precision. But before his blade fell again, Beckman had taken out an exquisite short-range musket at some point in his hand. Even though there was still some distance between the two, Shanks could still see it clearly. There is a lifelike dragon carved on the butt of the gun. Boom! There was a gunshot. Shanks' eyes instinctively narrowed his pupils, as if searching for the trajectory of bullets in the air. But no. The moment he realized this, Shanks's heart rang with alarm. As a strong man, his sixth sense allowed him to instinctively release the second stage of armed domineering, covering his chest with an invisible force in the air. Armor. Sure enough, the next moment, the invisible armor received an impact. The force is not very strong, not even comparable to ordinary musket bullets. But Shanks didn't dare to underestimate anything. He exerted force on his feet and took 2 steps back. Then, where he was originally, the air instantly turned purple, filled with strong poisonous gas. Mean, Shanks cursed in his mind. Before he could think about it, Beckman's figure pulled out a purple shadow and rushed towards him at an extremely fast speed. "Poison means gun," Beckman chuckled softly and pointed at Shanks' head. Shanks dared to let Beckman, a poisonous man, touch him. He stepped on his feet again and then did a backflip on the spot, dodging very neatly. He fired this blow. Then, the griffin in his hand slashed out horizontally without hesitation, as if he wanted to cut Beckman in half. "Paper painting," 2 words came out of Beckman's mouth. The figure was like a piece of paper, soft to the extreme, and managed to avoid Shanks's knife by just a hair. At the moment when Shanks put away his sword, Beckman straightened his waist and leaned forward, instantly closing the distance between him and Shanks. "Open your mouth and spit out the poisonous gas." Breath of poison. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 455. Admiralty Marineford. In the office of Marshal Warring States. At this time, Marshal Warring States was seriously listening to a report from a naval colonel, and in his office, 3 people, Porisalino, Cusin, and Garp, were sitting. "Ben Beckman?" "Caranda Neiman," Marshal Warring States asked with a look of surprise in his eyes. "That's right, Marshal, there is already solid sighting information. Not only Sphinx and Enel, but Ben Beckman and Caranda Neiman from the Warhammer Pirates have also appeared on Lone Sea Coal Island. And had a fierce conflict with the red-haired pirates. 1/3 of the island was destroyed. We estimate that after this incident, due to Ben Beckman's ability, there may not be any more people there within 50 years. No longer suitable for any living thing to survive unless the toxins are removed," the naval captain responded quickly. Marshal Warring States looked at this guy with a strange expression. "Are the people in your intelligence department so idle? Do you want to estimate whether the island will be suitable for survival in a few decades? It's none of our business. What happened?" But he didn't say much, nodded and said, "Okay, I understand, go down, continue to keep an eye on the situation over there, and report any changes at any time." "Yes, Marshal," the naval colonel responded, then turned around and left. After the colonel left, Marshal Warring States looked at Porisalino and others, and said, "It seems that the red-haired guy is facing Warhammer for the first time. The pirates took action and they were ruined. Ha 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 ha, you unlucky guy, do you think that since Orgrim is not in the New World, the Warhammer pirates can be manipulated at will? If there was such a good thing, our navy would have killed those bastards long ago. Garp laughed happily. Of course, the navy knows about the red-haired pirates' ideas and plans. After all, the two sides are cooperating in this regard. Those rumors can spread so fast, and the navy is behind it. There, they added fuel to the flames. The result was good. I thought I would only attract the grumpy Sphinx. Now Ben Beckman is there in person, and he is the second in command of the Warhammer pirates. Kuzan is also a little helpless. Shaking his head, he said, sure enough, as long as you provoke them, they will definitely fight back. Is it even possible that the red-haired pirates will be completely wiped out there this time? No one knows whether Ben Beckman has any other arrangements. But with that man's wisdom, anyway, I don't think highly of the red-haired pirates. Porisalino curled his lips and said. Garp also nodded at this time and said, in my opinion, with the style of the Warhammer pirates, even if they don't completely kill the red-haired pirates here, they will be killed by force expelled from the New World. That's troublesome. Marshal Sengoku had a headache. He made the decision to support the red-haired pirates and took action. As a result, not long after the red-haired pirates entered the New World, they were directly destroyed by the Warhammer pirates, or were kicked out of the New World. How would the sea view this? Everyone will think that the Navy and the King's Shichibukai are a joke. He had just pulled the Kibukai under the king up, and he would have fallen into the abyss again. Therefore, we cannot let Shanks, an unlucky boy, be destroyed by the Warhammer pirates in the New World. We must find a way to support him. Fortunately, I prepared for the worst from the beginning. Marshal Sengoku smacked his lips and said. Shanks may have underestimated the Warhammer pirates, but Sengoku, the naval marshal, has been fighting with the Warhammer pirates for so many years, and he is almost an old enemy with Orgrim. It is impossible to underestimate the Warhammer pirates, otherwise you are looking down on yourself and their navy. Regarding Shanks' plan, Sengoku maintained a supportive attitude, but he also believed that there would indeed be risks, so he did the rest arrangement. In his opinion, if Shanks can succeed this time, it will be beneficial to both parties. If it really fails, like now, it will not be without gain for the Navy. At least it can be used to beat Shanks and make him understand that the New World is no longer the New World he was familiar with. Without the support of the Navy behind him, he will be unable to move in the New World. By then, he will be able to be more powerful. Affecting the red-haired pirates can make Shanks more controllable. As for the defeat of the King's Shichibukai to the Warhammer pirates in the battle, it will indeed make the power of the King's Shichibukai lower, but as long as don't be wiped out, or just drive out of the New World in one wave. Then there is still hope. After all, there shouldn't be too many silver medal players who lose to the Yonko pirates on the sea. There is nothing to be ashamed of. If you want to be scandalous, everyone is. What a loser. After saying this, the Warring States Marshal picked up the phone bug on the table, fiddled with it a few times, and then sent out the signal. Not long after, the phone bug was picked up. Then a clear and powerful voice, it came from the phone bug. Warring States boss. It seems that the situation has changed and I need to take action, the voice asked in a funny voice. Sengoku's expression was a little subtle and he said, Jun, why don't you call me Marshal? We are not some gangster organization. Who is the boss? Ah ha 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 ha, sorry, mainly the atmosphere of G-5, well, in short, I am somewhat influenced by it, Marshal Boss Jun said with a smile. Yes, the person who answered the phone here was the base commander of the Navy G-5 base, former Vice Admiral Momoto Jun of the Navy headquarters. Now, she is already AG. She is the Lieutenant General of the 5th branch. According to her operation, she was automatically demoted. After all, there is a 3-level difference between the branch lieutenant general and the main branch lieutenant general. But no one dares to underestimate Jun. This guy, because she took the initiative to leave the headquarters and be transferred. Secondly, she has a wide range of connections in the headquarters, plus she is very powerful and good looking. She is a flower of the Navy. When nothing happens, no one will offend her. And how long after she went to G-5 to serve, the Navy headquarters began to select general candidates. What is outrageous here is that all the general candidates who were selected at that time, Purasalino, Saka among the people like Ski, Kyuzan, and Cake, there is one person who is very special. That's right, Jun. The Sengoku general at the time didn't know what tricks to use, and he insisted on treating Jun, who was theoretically the branch lieutenant general. The guy was given the status of an admiral candidate. Now, 3 of the admiral candidates have become the new admirals. Then, the current admiral candidates at the Navy headquarters are only Jun and Keiki. And Jun is the only one who serves as a vice admiral of the Navy branch and is also a candidate for the Navy admiral. It is impossible to clearly distinguish which side Jun belongs to. You said she is a vice admiral of the branch. Yes, she is the base commander of G-5. But you are right to say that she is the boss of the Navy headquarters. After all, she is still a candidate for general. Fortunately, although this guy is special, he is still in the Navy system after all. Inside, after everyone was curious about it, there was nothing else going on, and the heat dissipated. Marshal boss, Sengoku thought about it helplessly, but he didn't dwell on Jun's words. It can be heard that Jun's personality has become more and more bold in the past few years that she has been in G-5. It seems that she still likes it there. Okay, I won't bother you with these questions anymore. Jun, how far are you from Lonely Coal Island? Marshal Waring States asked. According to the previous order, our G-5 Navy has been secretly lurking in the sea area, preparing to coordinate with the red-haired pirates. Therefore, I am not very far from Lonely Coal Island. If I advance at full speed, I can reach it within 2 hours. Arrive, Jun quickly responded. 2 hours? That should be no problem. The situation changed. Ben Beckman and Karanda Neiman appeared on Lonely Coal Island. Together with Eniro and Sphinx, they launched an attack on the red-haired pirates, causing the red-haired pirates to collapse. The plan failed. Our headquarters is not optimistic about the performance of the red-haired pirates in this incident. We believe that they will have a high probability of failure. However, due to the situation, we cannot sit idly by and watch their failure, leading to destruction or being destroyed. Drive out of the New World, so I need you to go and support me. Please pay attention, don't intensify the conflict between the headquarters and the Warhammer pirates. We have no intention of going into full-scale war with the Warhammer pirates yet, Marshal Sengoku said in a deep voice. Jun smiled. If it were before, when she was at the Navy headquarters, with her character and thoughts, she would definitely feel unhappy. I am the Vice Admiral of the Navy headquarters, and I am going to support him. Dealing with a pirate? Even if the other party is the Shichibukai, it is very embarrassing. But it is different now. After so many years in G-5 and so many years in the New World, Jun is no longer there. She is the passionate, pure, and righteous beauty she used to be. She is now one of the local gangsters in the New World. The atmosphere of G-5 and the chaotic environment of the New World will more or less affect her character and behavior. She also understands that justice and evil are so simple to distinguish. Now, she is not fulfilling justice more, but her duties as a Navy. Looking at the two separately, she feels suddenly cheerful. Those conflicts in the past are no longer conflicts. So now Jun doesn't feel awkward at all about going to support Shanks or something. Ha 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 ha, no problem, Marshal, that is to say, as long as it doesn't go too far, I still have the authority to fight against the Warhammer pirates, right, Jun smiled and asked. Well, as long as the conflict is not intensified to the point of no return, Marshal Warring States said. Leave it to me, Jun said very confidently. Then, without any extra words, she hung up the phone directly. Marshal Sengoku was completely confused. What is going on? Although there is really nothing else to do. I've explained it. But generally speaking, isn't it the leader who hangs up first? You Jun, oh, forget it, don't get angry with this kind of woman. The Warring States period, am a marshal with a big heart and a big heart. At the same time, the warship of the New World G-5 Navy. This warship already looks very strange, and Jun's style has become increasingly wild in the past 2 years. The Navy's logo is painted on the large sails of Navy warships, which is the symbol of a seagull spreading its wings. But now, although the ship still looks like a warship, there is a huge pink rabbit painted on the sail. Yes, Jun changed it. This warship is the flagship of Jun. At this time, in her office cabin, Jun was sitting on a comfortable office chair. Her long, slender, white legs were lifted directly from the chair to the table, looking like a boss. At the same time, she had a cigarette in her mouth. She had just hung up the phone bug and dropped it on the table. After blowing out a puff of smoke, Jun shouted loudly, "Here comes someone." As soon as she finished speaking, a guy with the rank of Commodore on his shoulder opened the door and walked in. He asked with a smile, "Sister-in-law, what order?" "Full speed to Lonescully Island. Coordinate with the red-haired pirates and block the Warhammer pirates." Jun grinned, put on a wild smile, and said. "Learn." The Commodore saluted with a non-standard military salute. "You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 456. 5 days later, the News of the World published the news of the fierce conflict between King Shishibukai, red-haired Shanks, and the Warhammer pirates on Lonesy Coal Island to the whole world. According to the news published in the newspapers, the red-haired pirates were not completely defeated, at least Shanks was not defeated by Ben Beckman. However, in the end, the red-haired pirates quickly evacuated Lonescully Island with the support of the Navy's G-5 branch. Mainly because Shanks didn't know what to do. As soon as the battle started, Ben Beckman jumped out. Who knows if the fight continues, my Hawk or Douglas Barrett will pop up later. Wouldn't that be the end of it? In addition, he is not sure that he can completely defeat Beckman, Neiman, Sphinx, and Enero here. It's not that he is unsatisfactory, it's mainly that his cotters are not strong enough yet. After this battle, Shanks completely realized how empty the power in his hands was, and he needed someone strong enough to join his red-haired pirate group. But for a while, I don't know where to look. If there hadn't been the intrusion of the Navy, maybe Beckman would have driven Shanks out of the New World in one fell swoop. However, due to the emergence of the G-5 Navy and the appearance of Jun, an admiral-level master of the Navy, if the fight continues, the outcome will be unpredictable. The situation will also change, just like the Navy headquarters is unwilling to have a real conflict with the Warhammer pirates. As one of the core members of the Warhammer pirates, Beckman naturally knows that the Warhammer pirates do not want to start a head-on war with the Navy headquarters now. So I just went with the flow and settled the matter hastily. All in all, the Warhammer pirates performed pretty well during this incident. The red-haired pirates, a member of the Shishibukai who are in the spotlight, have only been clamoring to challenge the Warhammer pirates for 2 days as soon as they entered the New World. He was immediately knocked out of his arrogance. If the Navy hadn't appeared, they would have been worse off, right? In short, everyone on the sea thinks this is the victory of the Warhammer pirates. The red-haired pirates, who clamored to challenge the Warhammer pirates, were beaten and fled in disgrace with the Navy. Isn't this a victory? People in the New World once again clearly understood one thing. That is the New World, and it is still the New World that the four emperors have the final say. Even the kings Kaiwuhei must lie down obediently here. New World, Cake Island. At this time, in a mansion on Cake Island, Katakuri was sitting on a chair drinking tea. Although he was grounded by Charlotte Lingling, in fact, he was not really locked in a cage. It's just that you can't leave Cake Island at will. In other respects, there are no restrictions. Even after her anger subsided, Charlotte Lingling still wanted to make amends with her second son. After all, Charlotte Lingling still valued Katakuri very much and loved his perfect son very much. But she cannot tolerate anything that challenges her authority within the Big Mom pirate group. Therefore, no matter how much she likes this powerful son, she must take care of him. Her authority must not be damaged. Especially now that the Big Mom pirates are in a not-so-good situation. Katakuri was holding the teacup, looking at the photos on the table with a somewhat hollow look in his eyes. On it was a photo of him with his two brothers, Daefu and Owen, when he was a child, and he was holding his sister Bree in his arms. As he watched, Katakuri's eyes filled with anger. There are differences between people, even brothers. Although Katakuri is the second oldest brother in the entire Big Mom Pirates, he has many younger brothers and sisters. He is also willing to protect these younger brothers and sisters, but in his heart, the only ones who can really come to the forefront are his two younger brothers and Bree, his sister who was disfigured because of him when she was young. The rest of the people still have to stand back. But now, one of the four people in the photo has died. My younger brother Daefu. Even his head was cut off and sent to Cake Island. When he saw Daefuku's head, Katakuri felt that the whole world was going to explode. His brother, who had been with him day and night for decades, died like this, and his death was so tragic. So the furious Katakuri wanted to take revenge on the Warhammer pirates at all costs, at least to cut that damn bastard lowly Sphinx into pieces. But his mother, Charlotte Lingling, rejected this option, believing that the top priority was to stabilize the existing strength of the Big Mom pirates, not to take revenge. Even if you want revenge, you have to wait for the opportunity. In Katakuri's view, Charlotte Lingling's mother was not a good mother, and not one or two of her younger brothers and sisters died in her hands. But he is still willing to stay in her position. Why? The reason is that Charlotte Lingling is strong enough and can borrow her power to better protect her younger brothers and sisters. It's okay now. My brother Daefu was killed and his head was chopped off and brought here. I want to bury him, but I can't even get his whole body together. What is this? At the same time, the figures of the younger brothers and sisters who died unjustly at the hands of Charlotte Lingling appeared in Katakuri's mind again. This incident was like a fuse, detonating Katakuri's inner dissatisfaction with Charlotte Lingling that he had been reluctant to face and had been suppressed. There was a fierce conflict between the two sides, and Katakuri almost attacked Charlotte Lingling. Fortunately, he still has sense and knows that once he attacks his mother, he will definitely die. But this fierce verbal conflict also offended Charlotte Lingling's authority. Therefore, Katakuri was confined to Cake Island and could not go anywhere. Daefuku, Katakuri murmured softly, with tears in his eyes. Don't worry, brother, I will avenge you no matter what the price is. This is the responsibility that an elder brother should shoulder, Katakuri murmured sadly. At this moment, someone knocked on his door. Katakuri took a deep breath to cover up all his grief and weakness. He, still the perfect man. With a somewhat cold tone, Katakuri said, "Come in." As soon as he finished speaking, the door was pushed open, and then Owen came in. After seeing that it was Owen, Katakuri's cold expression dissipated, and he asked softly, "What's wrong?" Katakuri nii, this is today's newspaper. It contains news about the damn Warhammer pirates and that bastard Sphinx. Owen said, holding a newspaper in his hand. A cold light flashed in Katakuri's eyes and he said, "Show me." After taking the newspaper from Owen, Katakuri read it carefully, word for word. Then, he frowned slightly. It was not good news. Those bastards of the Warhammer pirates were showing off their power again? However, there was someone here who caught Katakuri's attention. Shisabukai, red hair, Shanks. Red hair, Katakuri murmured softly, and then said with a glint in his eyes, "Owen, go get me a detailed information about the red-haired pirates and Shanks. I want to see this guy. What are you capable of?" Owen nodded without hesitation and said, "No problem, brother Katakuri." He left here quickly, and then returned here quickly. When he came, he held a stack of intelligence materials in his hand, which were all about the red-haired pirates and Shanks. Now, although the Warhammer pirates came from behind and after integrating with Happy Street, their intelligence capabilities are ranked first in the pirate industry. But the Big Mom pirates have also been working hard in this area for many years, and their power is naturally not small. Katakuri looked at this information carefully. The more you look at it, the brighter your eyes become. King Shisabukai, it's interesting. At the same time, Orgrim was extremely talented and powerful, but was he always outclassed by Orgrim? Such a person is destined to be the opponent of the Warhammer pirates. Does the new Marshal of the Navy, Sengoku, also think that he is the most likely person to challenge Orgrim? That is to say, he may be able to grow to a level that is not inferior to his mother and the others. Katakuri murmured softly. Brother Katakuri, what's wrong? Does this person need the attention of our Big Mom pirates? Owen asked in a daze. A smile appeared on the corner of Katakuri's mouth under Katakuri's scarf. He shook his head and said, "No, yes, he just needs to attract my attention. Owen, I have something to give you. If you have any information about this red-haired pirate group, help me keep an eye on it. If they have any movements, tell me at any time. Then, find a way to use your personal identity to establish contact with them for me, do you understand?" After Daifuku died, Owen became Katakuri's last brother. Of course, Katakuri had absolute trust in his younger brother. But there were some things that he couldn't say too much to Owen. Owen couldn't guess what Katakuri was thinking, but since his brother said so, he wouldn't question anything. He nodded without hesitation and said, "Yes, Katakuri brother, I will find a way get things done." Katakuri nodded lightly and said nothing more. Owen was also very sensible and turned around and left. After Owen left, Katakuri looked at the photos on the table again. Staring at Daifu's face, he said in a harsh tone, "Daifu, brother will definitely avenge you. Since I am in front of you, Charlotte Lingling, and in front of your position, I can no longer support me in protecting my younger brothers and sisters. So, don't blame me for being cruel, Mom. Family members are supposed to help each other and advance and retreat together. But under your twisted rule, we are all just tools. This kind of twisted family affection and bloodline is not a real family. If you can't protect me, Katakuri will protect you." But soon, Katakuri extinguished the flame in his heart again. He knew that now was not the time, he just had an idea. "You can't show any signs of disrespect. Maybe you should give in to Charlotte Lingling's mother and return to your position as a general." "Daifuku, just wait, it won't be too long," Katakuri murmured softly. On the other side, in the East China Sea, Orgrim was also reading the newspaper at this time. He smacked his lips in a funny way. "This guy Shanks, he actually started fighting with Beckman. This is really, destiny is so elusive. Durag has left, and Orgrim has finished all the things he should do. Donghai has no interest in staying any longer, so as soon as he put the newspaper away, Orgrim stretched himself and said the leisurely vacation life is about to end." At this moment, the little lowly Nami next to her looked at Orgrim in surprise and asked, "Are you leaving?" Orgrim. "Gee ha 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 ha, yes, The East China Sea is too small to accommodate a big fish like me, Orgrim laughed and said. Then, he reached out and rubbed Nami's little head and asked, so what? Do you want to go to sea with me? There was some excitement in Nami's eyes. Under the influence of Orgrim, Nami, who had always longed for the world, also developed a strong interest in the pirate industry. But in the end, he shook his head and said, no, Belmir won't let me go with you, and I don't want to make her sad, so I'd better wait until I grow up. By then, I will definitely be able to convince Belmir. Gee ha 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 ha, I will send someone to pick you up when the time comes, Orgrim said with a smile. Please give me flowers and monthly tickets, bosses. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 457. The end of 1510 in the Haiwan calendar. A long time has passed since the first conflict between the red-haired pirates and the Warhammer pirates in the New World. After that, the red-haired pirates still did not stop, clashing with the Warhammer pirates several times, and then relying on the agility of a ship to escape around the New World, turning the already chaotic situation of the New World into chaos, causing even more confusion. Then, the first general of the Big Mom pirates, Katakuri, who had not been seen for a long time, also reappeared on the sea. This made Orgrim very strange. Could that guy Darag be fooling me? Didn't it mean that this guy was banned? But thinking about it again, I think this guy might have figured it out and reconciled with his mother, right? Mommy's boy. Maybe it's because of the principle of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. In short, while the red-haired pirates were escaping from the pursuit of the Warhammer pirates, the Big Mom pirates were messing around a lot and even caused a lot of fights. Enelu, whose performance has not been very eye-catching at first, finally shines with its brilliance on the sea. His strength has also been recognized by everyone on the sea, thinking that he is the first among the new generation of pirates and will surely reach a higher position in the future. It is also because of this that Katakuri has some connections and involvements with the red-haired pirates, whether openly or secretly. But so far, Katakuri has never shown anything wrong, and has not really cooperated with Shanks. But Shanks is also a smart guy. He may have realized something, and maintained a fairly good friendship with Katakuri without anyone knowing. From Shanks' point of view, no matter what Katakuri's plan is, according to the agreement between him and the Navy, don't look at him causing so much trouble with the Warhammer pirates in the New World. But in fact, his first target is indeed the Big Mom pirates. This is the most beneficial choice for both the Navy and him. So, building a good relationship with Katakuri, no matter what Katakuri thinks, at least on the surface, can reduce the Big Mom pirate group's wariness towards him. However, these hustle and bustle gradually subsided as Orgrim returned to the New World. He is one of the strongest in this world. When he is not in the New World, many people dare to jump out and act arrogantly. But when he returned to the New World, the chaos dissipated a lot. The silver medal players, who were originally ambitious and wanted to show their presence, also withered. Again, the New World is the New World of the Four Emperors. Avalon Island in the Eternal Night Sea. Orgrim was sitting on the beach at this time, fishing with Queen Stussy. Next to them, there were Robin, Yamato, and Lucci. These three little guys were also fishing together. Robin and Lucci are both a big girl and a big boy. Lucci seemed a little bored at this time. He didn't like fishing very much. Seeing that his fishing rod had not moved for a long time, Robin had already caught several fish, and he was in a very unhappy mood. Boss Orgrim and brother Enel have made a name for themselves at sea, so I should be able to go to sea too, right? Lucci suddenly asked. Orgrim was eating oranges leisurely at this time. Listening to Lucci's words, he did not respond directly. Instead, he said to Stussy, "This beautiful lady, I have to tell you, this orange is actually not very delicious." "Really? Why do I feel so good?" These are the best oranges in the Avalon market, Stussy said with some strangeness. When I have the chance, I will take you to the East China Sea. The oranges there are very good, Orgrim smiled and said. Although you can't eat fresh oranges shipped from the East China Sea yet, the most popular ones are frozen ones. But presumably as the sea train project is gradually laid out, there will still be opportunities to eat it in the future. Especially if this technology can continue to be upgraded and can penetrate the windless zone in the future, it will be a big breakthrough. The world will be completely connected, and the efficiency of the operation of various materials will be greatly improved. This is undoubtedly a technological change that promotes progress in all aspects. But even if Orgrim mastered this technology, he would not let it go easily. It still depends on the benefits. After a pause, Orgrim looked at Lucci helplessly and said, I didn't forbid you from going to sea, I just didn't let you go to sea alone. When Enel or Sphinx come back, just follow them. Really? Very good. Lucci said excitedly. Then, he turned to look at Robin and said, Robin, do you want to go to sea with me? You'd be a nerd if you stayed in Avalon all day. Robin heard the word nerd and glanced at Lucci with some dissatisfaction. But before she could speak, Yamato on the side looked at Lucci very unhappy and said, Robin is my scheduled crew member, don't talk nonsense, Lucci. Just as these three little guys were arguing, the phone on the table beside Orgrim rang. Queen Stussy, who was peeling oranges for Orgrim, glanced at the phone bug and said with some surprise, it's Dover. Orgrim then withdrew his gaze from the three little guys, turned to look at the phone bug, and picked it up. At the same time, Queen Stussy also tore a piece of the orange in her hand, and handed it to Orgrim's mouth with a smile. Orgrim ate the orange in one bite, and then asked incomprehensively, Dover, long time no contact. How is Dressrosa? Didn't you say before that there was a little guy named Ludo and you wanted to take him to meet me? Why hasn't there been a follow-up for so long? Doflamingo smiled and said hello to Orgrim first, and then said this was indeed the case before, but after coming to Dressrosa, my brother, well, in short, don't worry about him for now. Let's talk about it later when we have a chance. Mr. Chui, there is good news this time. Trafalgar Law, this little guy followed Doflamingo after the destruction of Fravanth in the North Sea. Doflamingo promised to take him to meet the most evil and crazy pirate in the world, Kazgarot Orgrim. After this, Ludo temporarily joined the Don Quixote family. After the incident in the North Sea came to an end, Doflamingo took Trafalgar Law to Dressrosa in the New World. And under Ludo's own eyes, he subverted the country's royal power. He turned his hand into clouds and turned into rain, and became a member of the royal family of the world government, the legitimate king of Dressrosa. This made Ludo, a kid, admire Doflamingo's methods very much, and the restless desire for destruction in his heart was slightly dissipated and alleviated because of Dressrosa's coup. After that, Doflamingo must give priority to rectifying the chaotic Dressrosa, so he did not take law to Orgrim for the time being. As for Orgrim, he left the New World directly after that. So far, Trafalgar Law has never met Orgrim. During this period, Doflamingo had more and more things on his hands as he became the king of Dressrosa. Therefore, he relaxed a little and took care of Ludo, the little guy he loved very much. As a result, Ludo Nandi, a scammer, found an opportunity. I started to have contact with Ludo, and I subconsciously wanted to influence and change Ludo's outlook and attitude. And he was very stubborn, thinking that Ludo's platinum lead disease must have a chance to be cured. He took Ludo away from Dressrosa and visited famous doctors. Although Doflamingo also knew, he was his younger brother after all, and besides, he was just taking Ludo for treatment. It was nothing, and I didn't think much about it. After all, Rossi Nandi was a bit of a holy mother, and Doflamingo also knew it. He just thought that he felt that Ludo was a bit miserable and wanted to save him. Since I was also very busy here, I didn't care about Rossi Nandi and Ludo's affairs. After these two guys lose hope of treatment outside, they will still come back in the end. Just in time, I should be finished by then. Therefore, Doflamingo doesn't care about these things at this time. As for Ludo Nandi, this guy is also really smart. He led Ludo to encounter obstacles at sea. Some famous doctors did not even dare to meet each other after hearing that Ludo was suffering from platinum lead disease. After all, platinum lead disease is so terrifying, and Free Fans was destroyed because of this disease. Although contagiousness is a rumor, who dares to be really sure? In despair, Rossi Nandi was still unwilling to give up. He suddenly thought of someone. Norman Nightingale. The world government calls him the desperate doctor, but in fact, he is the ship's doctor of the Warhammer pirates and is the most famous doctor in the world today. In the medical field, most people I would like to call him the underworld chasing soul. To put it simply, as long as you still have breath, you will most likely not die if you get into his hands. It means that he can recover your soul from the underworld and from the hands of death. Before, Rossi Nandi was unwilling to have too many entanglements with pirates like him. But at this time, in order to save Ludo, or in other words, to redeem himself, he was also a little obsessed. Decided to ask Nightingale to save Ludo once as Don Quixote Doflamingo's younger brother. In fact, at this time, he was a little obsessed, and he didn't think about it. With the relationship between Doflamingo and the Warhammer pirates, if Doflamingo liked Ludo so much, he should have arranged this earlier. Something happened. But those who have no hope will not give up the last possibility. Rossi Nandi decided to go to see Nightingale in person. After some inquiries, he found out that Nightingale was in Bihai now, going to treat the Queen of the Germa Kingdom. She had been there for a long time. So he took Ludo, this unlucky boy, back to Bihai again. This journey, back and forth, goes around, and finally brings everything back to the North Sea, a sea where sin and evil breed. Yeah, Orgrim smiled and didn't ask any more questions. Trafalgar Law, he is interested, but his interest is only so great. It is not certain whether this kid can survive, because he wouldn't give the boy the fruit of the operation just because he had platinum lead disease. Compared with him, Nightingale was the person Orgrim trusted more. So what's the good news? Orgrim asked with a smile. You may not believe it, but there seems to be news about the surgical fruit. It is said that it was found by a small pirate group, but they did not know the true value of it. Instead, it was the 5 billion shells advertised by the world government in the dark world. I was moved by the bounty offered by Lee, and seemed to want to trade the fruits of the operation. You know, I am a middleman in the dark world. Currently, this little pirate group is testing me. I just received the news, Doflamingo smiled and said. Orgrim's eyes lit up, the fruits of the operation. If you get this thing, the rudder on Shiji's head can be removed. At that time, it should be impossible not to say that Shiji's strength can be restored to its peak, but there are 7 or 8, who are also very strong, right? Having an old man in the family is like having a treasure. Dover, please try and see if you can block the news. We can just pay for it, Orgrim said without hesitation. It was just 5 billion belly, not a big sum of money. Orgrim gave it to him casually. And he had no intention of taking advantage of others. Doflamingo smiled helplessly. Said, of course I am willing to do this, but the problem is that this group of people are simply newcomers. They don't understand any rules, so they dare to test in the dark world. Now, the news has probably spread. All I can say is, try your best, but you must also be prepared to compete with the world government. Orgrim was also a little helpless. The world government must have been keeping an eye on the various news about the results of the operation. There is a group of people who have emerged in the dark world. Whether it is true or false, considering the importance of the surgical fruits to the world government, they will definitely pay close attention to it. Investigate where these idiots are as soon as possible, even if you have to fight with the world government. I can't give up on the fruits of this operation, Orgrim said in a deep voice. In the past, in the story, the fruit of the operation ended on Mignon Island in the North Sea. But now, Orgrim does not dare to be so sure, so he should investigate clearly first. Otherwise, wouldn't it be embarrassing to rush to Bihai only to find that someone is not there? Learn. Doflamingo responded with a smile. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 458. Bihai, Kingdom of Jerma. At this time Rossi Nandi had already arrived here with Trafalgar Law. And as Doflamingo's biological brother, he met Nightingale naturally. At this time, Nightingale and Gaiji were receiving Rossi Nandi and Luo. Rocinante still acted as a mute and did not speak, but communicated through words. Nightingale looked at the note in her hand and understood the guy's purpose, then turned to look at Trafalgar Law. This kid already has large white spots on his body. He probably won't live long. It's definitely platinum lead disease. Although I haven't participated in Fervan's medical treatment, I have indeed done research and paid attention to platinum lead disease. Nightingale nodded and said. Yes, as a big shot in the medical field, Nightingale has been exposed to various difficult and complicated diseases. This is one of his jobs and also his interest. Doflamingo has been causing trouble in the North Sea for so long, and it was not difficult at all to find a few patients with platinum lead disease for him to do research on. After hearing Nightingale's words, Rosinan's eyes were filled with tears. There was a look of expectation. However, Nightingale looked at Rossi Nandi strangely and asked, "Didn't Dover tell you? Even I can't do anything about platinum lead disease. This is a disease that spreads in the blood, is rooted in the body, and is difficult to remove. To be precise, this should be regarded as a disguised infection. There is a large amount of trace amounts of platinum and lead accumulated in the body, which continues to accumulate and becomes what it is now. If you want to cure it, you have to remove all the platinum and lead from the body. This involves many difficult to solve techniques. For example, if it is rooted in the bone marrow, in the heart, it is difficult to take out these platinum and lead." After hearing Nightingale's words, Trafalgar Law's expression was a little regretful. But there was nothing particularly unwilling. He had already understood that he would not live long. It was just that he was beaten by Rossi Nandi. He was just brought out by force. However, during the time he spent with Rossi Nandi, Luo was also very moved. No matter how he was just a brat. Rossi Nandi was like a light of salvation, shining. It entered his heart. He suddenly discovered that there were still people in this world who cared about him. It was pure love without any entanglement of interests. That's why he was willing to follow Rocinante everywhere. But now it seems that hope has been shattered again. The most powerful ship's doctor in the Warhammer Pirates, the top doctor in the world, can't do anything about his terminal illness. Rosinandi's eyes also looked a little desperate, and he soon read a book. He wrote another sentence on it and handed it to Nightingale. "Is there really no hope at all?" Nightingale looked at the note in her hand, and then sighed helplessly. Although she was already a pirate, Nightingale also knew that her other identity was a doctor. Perhaps he had done many evil things. However, he is still willing to save lives and heal the wounded. Otherwise, why would he come all the way to Bihai with Gag? Do you really think that with Gag's status, he can be invited to move him? If he doesn't want to, Gag has no idea. What the heck? It's not that he feels soft-hearted. On the other hand, he is also very curious. This kind of genetic disease is rare, that's why he comes. After he comes, it is not useless. Otherwise, if you count the time, just Queen Ra should have died by now. But after Nightingale came, Sara's condition was temporarily stabilized. But for some unknown reason, Vinsmoke Sanji still ran away. And he was killed by Leju was released. Geiji knew this, but he didn't say anything. On the one hand, although he hated Sanji, he still had some feelings in his heart. After all, Sara was still not dead. On the other hand, Reiju is now more than just her daughter. She is also an important bargain for him to maintain a good relationship with the Warhammer pirates. Don't forget, Ben Beckman, but he likes this little girl Reiju very much. So it is impossible for him to punish Reiju for such a thing, so even though Sanji has run away, Geiji does not take it seriously and just pretends that he is not there. He runs away. It doesn't matter if I leave or stay in Germa, I'll be upset when I see it. Conventional medical methods are definitely ineffective. Nightingale shook her head and said. Rosinandi's expression was a little ugly. But at this moment, Nightingale said again, but special methods are not ruled out. You should have heard of the fruit of surgery, right? The power of this devil fruit is very strange. It is the top medical devil fruit. If it has this ability, it is very likely that a powerful doctor can save this little guy if he eats it. Having said this, Nightingale looked at Geiji again and said, of course, I think Queen Sola's condition may be saved by the results of the surgery. Rosinandi's eyes flashed with a light. He quickly wrote a line on the small notebook in his hand, tore it off and handed it to Nightingale. Nightingale took it and looked at it again. Where are the surgical results? Ha 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 ha, you have asked me this question. It seems that you really don't pay much attention to these things in the Don Quixote family. Your brother Doflamingo and our captain have, over the years, I have been looking for the surgery fruit, but there is still no news or clues. In fact, I also really want to become a user with the ability of the surgery fruit. As long as Doflamingo and my captain find the surgery fruit, I can get my wish. When the time comes, with my medical skills and surgical abilities, I may be able to save this little guy's life. Nightingale said with a smile. Rosinandi was also a little excited. Although Doflamingo and Orgrim are two evil pirates, they are still very capable. If they are really found, as a result of the operation, wouldn't Luo Yu have been saved? Yes, Nightingale was there at this time, and Nightingale said such things. Rosinandi's mind became much more active, and it was not as if in the original story, it was planned to let Luo eat the fruit of the operation. In his opinion, if Nightingale was given this ability, Luo's hope of being cured would be obviously greater. Because Luo didn't understand anything, but Nightingale is a first-class doctor. And because Doflamingo was influenced by Orgrim, he seems to be not so stubborn about the immortality of the fruits of the operation. On the sea, it is said that the medicine can bring immortality. Isn't there only one surgery fruit? If he secretly stole the surgery fruit and was discovered by Orgrim, the two would be completely separated. At that time, Orgrim felt betrayed and became furious. Next, whether he can die well is a question, and he still wants to live forever? Therefore, Doflamingo has no intention of doing anything with the results of the operation. Naturally, he has no intention of sacrificing his biological brother. Sacrifice to eternal life. Rosinandi didn't realize Doflamingo's malice, which was one of the reasons why he changed his mind. To put it simply, Rosinandi now has the same position as Doflamingo and Orgrim regarding Law's life. They all wanted to let Nightingale eat the fruit of the operation. He wrote some more words on the small notebook in his hand and handed it to Nightingale. Nightingale looked at. I will also try my best to help the doctor find the fruits of the operation. I hope that after that, you can fulfill your promise and cure Luo's platinum lead disease. Nightingale smiled, nodded, and said, don't worry. Although I am a pirate, I am also a doctor in essence. Even if it is just because of the relationship, I have no reason to reject you, Dover, my younger brother's request, simply based on platinum lead disease. This boy is also the last patient with the disease. Of course I am also very interested in him. If the operation has fruitful results, I will go all out. Rossi Nandi nodded towards Nightingale, opened his mouth, seemingly with some difficulty, and slowly uttered two words, "Thank you." Nightingale raised her brows and said, "It seems that your condition has improved. If Dover knew about it, he would be very happy." Rossi Nandi forced a smile, but didn't speak any more. "Anyway, you guys came to Bihai in a hurry, and you must be very tired on the road. Let's stay here for 2 days and have a little rest. I just happened to be checking up on this kid to see how bad his condition is." Nightingale smiled and said. Rossi Nandi did not refuse anything, nodded, and accepted the matter. 2 days later, at the Marine headquarters, Marineford. The Warring States Marshal was also talking on the phone at this time. "What news is Joan confirming?" "Confirmed. Are those pirates in the North Sea?" Marshal Warring States asked. After something came from the phone bug, he nodded again and said, "Contact him as soon as possible, don't let the Don Quixote family get there first." In the original story, Doflamingo was the middleman of this transaction, and the Navy's calculations at the time were also very clear. While getting the fruits of the operation, they also had to find a way to capture Doflamingo. Facts have proved that their plan is actually quite reliable, and senior advisor Ahe was present in person. But the problem is that there are 2 traitors among them. That's right, the adopted son of the Warring States Marshal, Rossi Nandi. The other is Virgo. Rosinandi's intrusion, coupled with Virgo's secret care, completely broke the Navy's plan. In the end, the results of the operation were not obtained, and Doflamingo was not caught either. The Navy lost all face. But now, because Doflamingo and Orgrim wear the same pants, he also became King Shishibukai ahead of schedule. Therefore, the Warring States Marshal had no reason to continue to arrange any conspiracy against him. Even he knew that the Warhammer pirates and Doflamingo were also looking for the fruits of the operation. Naturally, it would be best not to involve them, lest a powerful competitor would be created and it would be more difficult for the Navy to obtain the fruits of the operation. If you mess up, how can you explain it to the world government? After hanging up the caller here, Warring States began to think that if he really wanted to do this, he would have to find someone who could do it resolutely and neatly. After thinking about it, I felt that Sakaski was a good fit. After getting the fruits of the operation, we will kill all the pirates together. Secretly making up his mind, the Warring States Marshal thought about it again, and he still had to confirm the actions of the Don Quixote family. How to confirm? Isn't this a coincidence? Isn't my adopted son Rossi Nandi in the Don Quixote family? Ha 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 ha, God is really helping me. So the Warring States Marshal planned to contact Rossi Nandi to see if he could get some internal information. It's better to prepare in advance and strive to be ahead in this competition. Whatever he wanted to do, he took out his personal phone and quickly dialed Rossi Nandi. At the same time, in Dressrosa, Doflamingo also confirmed a piece of news. That is the pirate group that got the fruits of the operation, and they are currently in the North Sea. He immediately contacted Orgrim again, and both of them decided to visit the North Sea. After all, the fruits of the operation are something they have been thinking about for a long time. Phew, okay, then just cross the windless zone. I'll wait for you to pick me up in Dressrosa. Let's go in a boat. I'll treat you to fishing by the way, Doflamingo said with a smile on the phone. Orgrim felt a little strange. What kind of fish was he fishing for? Still need to ask. However, he agreed readily. If he wanted to cross the windless zone and go to the North Sea, it would be just right to go to Dressrosa on the way. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 459. Bihai, the warhouse of the Kingdom of Jerma. Rocinante was currently living in a guest bedroom. As soon as the phone bug in his arms rang, he instantly activated his ability and silenced the sound within 2 meters around him. The outside world could not hear any movement inside them. After answering the phone, there came a voice that Rocinante missed very much. "Millet Fruit, Marshal of the Warring States," asked softly. A smile appeared on the corner of Rocinante's lips, and he answered, "It's me, Marshal." "Ha ha ha ha, are you okay over there? Are there any dangers?" Marshal Warring States asked. Although he sent Rocinante to investigate the intelligence, in fact, Marshal Warring States did not receive any particularly valuable information from Rocinante. Especially not long after he went there, the world government and Orgrim have reached a certain degree of cooperation in a tacit understanding. So much so that the Navy is not allowed to deal with the Warhammer pirates without special reasons. And Doflamingo directly became the king's Shishibukai, became a brotherly unit with the Navy headquarters. This made Marshal Sengoku very uncomfortable, and Rocinante had no more tasks and became a long-term lurker in Don Quixote. The secret agent of the Da family has nothing to do, just stay alive. This time, if it were not for the fruits of the operation, the Warring States Marshal would not want to contact Rocinante, because every contact is risky. Not caring about him is actually the best protection. Rocinante smiled and said, "Fortunately, because there are no necessary tasks, I am safe. After all, I am that guy's brother." The Warring States Marshal responded, and then said, "There is something I need you to inquire about this time." "Come to live?" Lugonandi was startled, "But I am in Bihai. Is it such an unlucky thing?" Although he felt a little embarrassed, Rocinante still asked, "Do you need any information?" "That's right, I don't know if you know the consequences of the surgery. In short, this is a devil fruit that the world government advertises as a bounty of 5 billion baileys in the dark world. We have been looking for this devil fruit. Of course, the same goes for Doflamingo and Orgrim. Not long ago, surgery news about the fruit appeared in the dark world. Through investigation, we found that this fruit is in the hands of a pirate group in the North Sea. The captain of this pirate group is a guy who defected from the Navy. He is in the dark world, trying to find someone to buy it and sell this devil fruit." The Warring States Marshal began to tell Rocinante about these things. He still trusted Rocinante in his heart, and he believed that there was no interest relationship between Rocinante and the results of the operation. "Tell him the ins and outs, no problem." But Rocinante was shocked when he heard the news. "The fruit of the operation? I am still thinking about where to find this thing and bring it back to Nightingale to save Lugo's life. The result is good, I haven't even started thinking about this yet." "Marshal, you just told me the news directly." At this moment, Rocinante's heart was very complicated. Although he now feels very uncomfortable with what the Navy is doing and what the world government is doing, uncomfortable. Some couldn't accept this cruel and dark reality, especially the destruction of Provence, the birth of Lugo, and the role played by the world government and the Navy in this, making him completely change his mind about these things such as justice and kindness. Caught in doubt. But for the Warring States Marshal who adopted him and has always been one of his inner pillars, Rocinante was still very grateful. So he was very confused at this time. What should he do? On one side is Lugo's life, on the other is the mission of Marshal of the Warring States. "Rocinante? Are you listening?" Marshal Warring States didn't hear the response from the other side for a long time and asked a little strangely. Only then did Rocinante come back to his senses and quickly said, "Yes, I'm here." "Well, that's probably what happened. The news must have spread. Doflamingo must also be looking for information about the fruit of this operation. Our Navy has made some progress, so I want you to try it and see if you can get it. If we communicate the news about Doflamingo like this, we can make arrangements," Marshal Warring States said. "I understand, I'll try to find out," Rocinante said. The Warring States Marshal smiled. Sure enough, his godson is still reliable. Did you see? He agreed without saying a word. After a slight pause, Rossi Nandi asked tentatively, Marshal, what will the Navy do with the fruits of the operation after they get it? The Navy can't arrange it? This is a political mission and something explained by the superiors. After the operation results are obtained, they should be delivered to Marijoa. The rest of the matter is beyond our control. Marshal Warring States didn't hide anything and said directly. If I want to borrow this ability, Rocinante hesitated for a moment and then asked. Borrowing abilities, Marshal Warring States was a little surprised, and then asked, what's wrong? You are hurt? I got sick. Come back to the Navy. We have many healing abilities here, which may be able to help you, but the fruit of this operation, it's hard to say. After all, there are huge secrets involved, and even I probably don't have that kind of influence. The look in Rocinante's eyes changed slightly, and he shook his head and said, that's not true, I was not injured, I was just asking casually. The Warring States Marshal was a little strange, but Rocinante had never deceived him since he was a child. Therefore, he did not doubt Rocinante, and then smiled and said, as long as you are not injured, in short, do your best. Don't force yourself too much, I'm waiting for your good news. Yeah, got it, Marshal Rocinante nodded and said. Soon, after hanging up the phone bug, Rocinante put away the phone bug and released its ability. His thoughts were very confused at this time, and he looked out the window blankly, not knowing for a moment what to do. At this moment, Trafalgar Law knocked on the door, and then walked in without waiting for Rocinante to answer. He saw Rocinante's dull look, and his expression also slightly changed. He was stunned for a moment, then with a smile on his face, he walked up to Rocinante and said, Mr. Corazon, you don't have to be so stressed. I knew from the beginning that I wouldn't live long. Yes, I am very lucky to meet you. Perhaps, for people like me, this is the last bit of luck in your life, right? Lugo's words were like a heavy hammer, hitting Rocinante's heart hard. This child's life, the mission of the Warring States Marshal. Rocinante was once a celestial dragon on Marijoa, and he knew just as many secrets as Doflamingo. At least he knew exactly what the fruit of the operation was. According to legend, if the fruits of surgery are developed to the extreme, then those with abilities will gain the ability to grant immortality to others. This ability will be sacrificed at the cost of the ability user's life. Why does the world government need this thing? There is no doubt that it cannot be used to save all sentient beings, cure diseases, and save lives, right? They spent 5 billion belly to do this? Even Rocinante wouldn't believe it. It must be used to seek eternal life. For the greedy Tianlong people, they lack nothing but time and lifespan. Giving this fruit to the world government is nothing more than adding a profligate celestial dragon to gain immortality, and it will also kill a person with abilities. On the contrary, if this fruit is given to Dr. Nightingale, this kid Lugo can survive and no longer have to be entangled in the pain of this platinum lead disease. How to choose here? Thinking of this, Rocinante smiled at Lugo and said, I will definitely protect you, and I will definitely save you. Believe me, Lugo. Perhaps, Rocinante is a very holy guy who cheats his teammates in all kinds of ways. Cheating. But I have to say that his kind of holy mother is sometimes quite good, especially for the people he wants to save. He, Rocinante, was indeed Trafalgar Law's ray of hope, his ray of redemption. After saying that, Rocinante didn't look at Lugo again, but took out the phone bug from his arms again. There was Doflamingo's contact information here, but Rocinante had never used it. Because in the eyes of Doflamingo and others, he, Rocinante, was a mute with a disorder of autonomy due to psychological problems. Phone bug or something, I don't use it at all. But at this moment, Rocinante decided to have a good talk with his brother, in person. Dressrosa and Doflamingo are also preparing. When Orgrim arrives, they will go to the North Sea together and cross the windless zone to find the whereabouts of the surgical fruit. At this time, he was arranging the work and tasks of Dressrosa for his subordinates during his absence. As a result, the phone placed on the table nearby suddenly rang. Doflamingo glanced at it casually, and then he was stunned. "My brother? Rocinante." Maybe he asked someone to pass on a message. Doflamingo comforted himself a little, then smiled and answered the phone. Nowadays, there is no such thing as an arrangement that results in immortality from surgery. Therefore, Doflamingo's love for Rocinante is not mixed with any other factors. It's just the kind of simple love and care that an elder brother has for his only blood brother in this world. Since I met Orgrim when I was very young, I was deeply influenced by Orgrim. Therefore, Doflamingo's character is not as cruel and ruthless as in the original story. He may still be dark, but he has not yet reached the stage of perversion. "Corazon?" Doflamingo asked with a smile. He was ready to hear who was on the other side and what message he wanted to convey to Rocinante. "Elder brother," Rocinante said softly. Doflamingo's eyes suddenly shrank, and then there was a look of surprise on his face, and he asked involuntarily, "Corazon, can you speak?" Rocinante was silent for a while, then he said, "Well, recently, that's it." "Very good. How nice of you to speak up," Doflamingo said from the bottom of his heart. Rocinante felt a little ashamed when he heard Doflamingo's deep concern. Indeed, Doflamingo is not a good person, and he is not the best person. His paths are completely opposite to each other, but as an elder brother, he has never felt sorry for himself. After suppressing these thoughts, Rocinante said, "Brother, I saw him on the Behi side, in the kingdom of Germa, Dr. Nightingale," he said, "if there is any fruit from the operation, Lugo's life may be saved." "The fruit of the operation?" Doflamingo was stunned for a moment, and then asked, "Dr. Nightingale really said that?" "That's right," Rocinante responded. "Phew phew phew, maybe this kid Lugo shouldn't die. Let me tell you good news. I have just received news about the surgery fruit. In fact, we and the Warhammer pirates have been looking for this devil fruit for so many years. Now, the surgery fruit is in Behi, and we are preparing to pass," Doflamingo said with a smile. Rocinante's eyes lit up and he asked, "That is to say, if you get the fruits of the operation, would you give it to Dr. Nightingale? Then can Lugo's life be saved?" "Certainly," Doflamingo said matter-of-factly. "Isn't this a very logical thing? Is there anything to hesitate?" "Brother, the secret of the results of the operation, you know that, right?" Rocinante asked with some suspicion. "Is Doflamingo so open-minded? Do you want eternal life?" Doflamingo smiled and said, "Rocinante, don't do such unrealistic things. Fantasy, eternal life. Maybe, I'm actually very moved, but, if we really seize the surgical fruit at this time, it will be tantamount to betraying the alliance between the Warhammer pirates and us. When the time comes, Orgrim will definitely be furious. Under his anger, we have no way to survive at all, let alone eternal life. A happy death is all a luxury. Eternal life just means that your natural lifespan will not end. You are a species of immortality. But it does not mean that you will not die. Even if Orgrim blows your skull open with a hammer, you will still be dead. So there are so many." Flamengo didn't put any thought into this at all. Although things are good, they have to be useful. What's more, Orgrim has always been very kind to him, and Doflamingo is the leader of Orgrim. Grim regarded him as his best and most trustworthy friend, even a brother. How could he betray Orgrim? A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 460. After confirming Doflamingo's thoughts, Rocinante said nothing more. Doflamingo was concerned about Rocinante again and asked him to exercise more so that he could speak well as soon as possible. Rocinante responded with some guilt. After hanging up the phone, Trafalgar Law looked at Rocinante with excitement and asked Mr. Corazon, "Is there any news about the results of the operation? Can I live?" Looking at this excited Trafalgar Law, Rocinante finally made up his mind. "I must save him. World government, get out of here." "Well, Lugo, you will be saved, and we will get the fruits of the operation, I promise," Rocinante nodded and said. In the next few days, Rocinante transformed into a double agent and communicated information with the naval marshal of warring states from time to time. He also communicated with Doflamingo while learning about the situation. Then, there was another progress in the intelligence information about the surgical fruit. Dies Barreros, this is a former naval officer. For some unknown reason, in short, he fell and escaped. He joined the Navy and became a pirate. He has nothing to say about himself. He is just an ordinary pirate. But he has the fruit of the operation in his hands, and at the same time, he is also a supernova of Luffy's class in the future. One member, Red Flag X Drake's father. Of course, Drake is a pirate on the surface, but in fact, he is a member of the Navy's Special Forces, executing a latent plan to infiltrate the secrets within the pirates. These are all things for later, let's not mention them for now. In short, Barreras has the surgical fruit in his hands. This guy doesn't know the true value of the surgical fruit, but he just thinks that 5 billion belly is very delicious. If he could get 5 billion Baileys, he wouldn't need to continue being a pirate. You can just find a place, clear your name, go ashore, and even spend some money to become a powerful noble. So, he went through the dark world and prepared to sell this devil fruit. This caused the previous commotion. After that, through constant testing and negotiation, Barreros finally decided to sell the fruits of the operation on Mignon Island, a chaotic island in the North Sea. Rocinante now also knows this information. Although he felt a little uncomfortable, Rocinante's final decision was on Trafalgar Law's side. He wanted to save Lugo, so he hoped that Doflamingo and Orgrim could get the fruits of the operation, rather than the fruits of the operation being obtained by the world government. Using his convenient identity, he jumped left and right, and Rocinante compared the intelligence of the Navy and Doflamingo. In the end, one thing was discovered, that is, the Navy was likely to arrive on Mignon Island earlier than his brother. Because the Navy's warships set off directly from Marijoy without any other twists and turns, and can completely seamlessly enter the North Sea. As for the Don Quixote family, Orgrim and Doflamingo were preparing to cross the windless zone and had already entered. Although the speed is not slow, it is somewhat tortuous. In terms of voyage, it is definitely longer than that of a warship. But the good news is that Orgrim's Black Narwhal is faster than the warship. Therefore, the gap between the two sides is not very large. But there is still some time difference here. Through understanding, the Navy sent out to perform the task this time was the newly promoted General Sakaski. There is no doubt that Sakaski is a resolute admiral. His strength is also here, and he will definitely do things neatly and neatly without any delay. Therefore, this short time difference may become the most fatal factor. He was afraid that after Sakaski arrived on Mignon Island, he would complete the transaction within minutes and take away the fruits of the operation. When the time comes, Orgrim and the others will be disappointed. Moreover, seizing the fruits of the operation from the Navy and completing the deal with Barelus are completely different things. 5 billion Baileys is nothing to the two major forces. But if the Navy gets it, and if Orgrim and the others come to snatch it, I'm afraid Sakaski won't keep it even if he burns the surgical fruit directly to ashes. Rocinante would never accept this kind of thing. He wants to save Lugo, the kind that no one can stop. So after thinking about it, Rocinante decided to take action himself. Now he knows almost all the information. In terms of distance, he is now in the North Sea. Among the three participants, he is the closest to Mignon Island. He may even be a day and a half faster than the Navy. If during this period, I get the fruits of the operation first, wouldn't it be over? So Rocinante is ready to take matters into her own hands. On the other side, in the edge of the windless zone of the North Sea, on the huge black narwhal, Orgrim was holding the narwhal crossbow on the bow of the ship and was aiming at the Sea King in the distance, roaring at them. This Neptune is not a super-large one. Super-large Neptunes usually live in the center of the windless zone. Orgrim traveled all the way from the New World, and it's not like he didn't kill these Neptunes. The one not far away is just the size of an ordinary warship. Just when Orgrim was about to shoot out the crossbow in his hand and start a hunt, Doflamingo walked to Orgrim's side and said, "Master Hammer, stop playing around, we have to speed up. I have obtained the intelligence from the Navy. This time, the Navy will lead the team. It's Sakaski who is very fast, maybe even faster than us. With his style of acting, if we delay any longer, we may miss the point." Orgrim's expression was stunned for a moment when he heard this, then he shook his head regretfully and said, "I understand." As soon as he finished speaking, his aura changed instantly. The majestic overlord-like domineering energy instantly burst out towards the roaring Neptune. The huge Sea King couldn't bear Orgrim's powerful overlord's domineering power. He wailed, his eyes turned white, he struggled and dived into the sea, and ran away. After that, the black narwhal began to move at full speed, heading towards Mignon Island in the North Sea, an island that Orgrim was still familiar with. Sitting on the deck, Orgrim and Doflamingo were eating fruit and chatting. Because the hull is so huge, the deck is naturally very wide. There is no shortage of entertainment venues. Not far from Orgrim and Doflamingo, there is a green volleyball court. At this time, many beautiful girls in bikinis were divided into two teams to compete with each other. This time Orgrim came out without Queen Stussy. Queen Stussy is in Avalon. Therefore, Doflamingo became more debauched and prepared many activities to make everyone happy, such as these bikini beauties. Orgrim and Doflamingo bet on the outcome of a team. There is a bit of a bonus here, the winner takes all. If whose team wins today, the other guy will have to spend a lonely night. On the contrary, the winner will definitely be much richer and more interesting. Life is endless and movement is endless. How can exercise be lonely? Of course it requires multiple people to exercise. Of course, for Orgrim and Doflamingo, these are just entertainment. For these vase beauties, just give them a taste. Who would be really interested? Presumably Stussy also understands this, so in this aspect, there is almost no control over Orgrim. For now, Stussy hasn't found any woman who could truly threaten her status. Orgrim was holding an orange in his hand and eating it. Without Queen Stussy, he returned to his original state and bit into the orange with the peel. Beside him, Doflamingo was answering the phone bug with a helpless expression. After the caller hung up, Orgrim asked what happened. "I didn't hear clearly just now." "My brother, Corazon," Doflamingo shook his head and spoke. Orgrim's eyes lit up a little, and he asked, "What's wrong? Are you asking about the fruit of the operation again?" Orgrim knew Rocinandi's story, so he didn't trust Rocinandi very much. But before that, he also discovered that there seemed to be a big twist in it. Especially when Nightingale contacted him not long ago, he said that Rocinante seemed to attach great importance to the fruits of the operation, and repeatedly asked Nightingale to promise that if he got the fruits of the operation, he must save Trafalgar Law. This made Orgrim very interested. Rocinante seems to be on their side. Although I find it a bit strange, think carefully about his behavior and his weird Madonna character. It seems that logically there is nothing wrong. This is very interesting. If it really develops like this, After the Warring States guy comes back to his senses, he discovers that Rossi Nandi, his adopted son, has tricked him in this matter. How bad must it feel? The worse his mood was, the happier Orgrim felt. Ha 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 ha. What's wrong? Your brother? Orgrim asked curiously. He wants to ask the Kingdom of Germa to borrow 5 billion belly. I think he plans to go to Mignon Island to buy the fruits of the operation first, right? Vinsmoke Gage decided to contact me first and ask for my opinion, Doflamingo said helplessly. What is my younger brother messing around with? But he could also understand that Rossi Nandi really wanted to save Trafalgar Law. Orgrim's eyes flashed with an imperceptible brilliance, and then he asked, maybe Sakaski's side is faster than us. There is a certain possibility, but I still have some power in Bihai. I am going to entangle him and delay him for a while, Doflamingo nodded and said. Orgrim thought about Sakaski's character and realized that it was probably of no use. Whoever stood in front of him now would probably be burned to ashes without saying a word. Is there anything in the Don Quixote family in Bihai that can resist his power? No, even if Doflamingo appeared in person, he was no match for Sakaski. Of course, with his strength, he can still delay Sakaski's steps to some extent. But he can't catch up. If the fruits of the operation fall into Sakaski's hands, even if Orgrim takes action himself, he probably won't be able to get them back. There is a high probability that Sakaski would rather die and destroy the fruits of the operation than give him Orgrim. Yes, Sakaski is definitely such a strong person. After thinking about it, Orgrim said, give it to him, isn't it just 5 billion Baileys? Your brother finally wants to do something for you. As an elder brother, you should support him. It's only 5 billion Baileys, it doesn't matter if you screw it up. In Orgrim's view, the fruits of the operation can only be obtained by Rossi Nandi, but they cannot be obtained by the Navy. If Rossi Nandi gets it, he will most likely give the fruits of the operation to Nightingale. Then it doesn't matter. Even if he wanted to run away with the surgical fruits, at least it would be much easier to deal with him and seize the surgical fruits from his hands than from the Navy. Now Sakaski is very likely to be faster than himself. It makes sense for me, Orgrim, to take insurance here. I'm afraid of him. Something went wrong. Doflamingo hesitated for a moment and then said. It's not that he doubted Rocinante or anything, but the impression this guy gave Doflamingo was really unreliable. He can't do anything, and he can eat whatever he wants. Nothing left, falling flat when walking, smoking like self-immolation. Let him try. Even if something happens, he is still a member of your Don Quixote family and a subordinate of the King Shishibukai. How dare the Navy do anything to him? Orgrim grinned and said with a smile. Doflamingo thought the same thing. On the one hand, he has a very close relationship with Orgrim, and on the other hand, he is the king of the Shishibukai. No matter what kind of navy he is, from thinking about it, I won't take any fatal action on the issue of Rossi Nandi. Even Sakaski. Otherwise, it will not only cause problems in the Shishibukai system. It is also likely to anger the Warhammer Pirates group. Alright, just let him try it. Doflamingo finally nodded and said. Then, he picked up the phone and dialed Gagey again.